What's up guys, Peter Valley here. In this video, I'm going to teach you in mathematical terms how to turn $500 into $150,000 and to do that in a very short amount of time. I'm going to use hard math here that nobody can argue with. This is not some abstract theoretical formula here. I'm going to show you the numbers and give you the blueprint about exactly how this would work, okay? I was motivated to make this video because I was thinking about what a gift it is that we're in such a high margin business selling used products on Amazon. And I wanted to kind of make a video about the power of a high margin business. What I'm about to show you would be basically impossible for any other business, maybe unless you're selling drugs, but for most other businesses, it would be fairly difficult to turn $500 into $150,000 as quickly as you can on Amazon. So this video is for two types of people. Number one, if you're a newer seller or you haven't even started yet and you want to be sold on the idea that actually, wow, this is the path for you. In other words, you want to see the exact numbers about exactly how this can work and what the blueprint looks like. Number two, if you're a more experienced seller and maybe you're having kind of a crisis of faith, like maybe you need like a motivation boost to actually be more disciplined about sourcing inventory and how quickly the numbers can stack up for you. Okay, so these are for both of you. I have a whole professional slide presentation for you. Let's get into it. Okay, again, I'm going to rely on hard math here to tell you how to turn $500 into $150,000. Leave it to me to create a presentation that looks like it's for like a grade school class. But this kind of is, I mean, even though the graphics are cheesy, it's kind of is how it works. Take the books, and by the way, what I'm going to teach you here is going to apply to every category, okay? So don't get hung up when I keep mentioning books. This will apply to any product category that has high margins, okay? But you take the book, you put it into the machine, the Amazon machine, and money gets spit out. That's basically how it works. Okay, so how quickly can you turn, that's the purpose of this whole presentation, to turn X amount of dollars, whatever that is, whatever you're starting with, into a bunch more money. The secret is what I am calling cash compounding, which is just a stupid, goofy name that I've given to what is otherwise known as compounded interest. It's got other terms, but here's basically how it works. So you take $50, let's just say for example, you feed it into the Amazon machine, you get $100 back, right? You're only doubling your money, and that's a worst case scenario. That's if you're doing things wrong, okay? So this whole formula I'm about to teach you relies on really conservative math. Then you take that $100 you got out of the Amazon spit out, right, of the machine. You stick it back in inventory, you turn that into $200. Then you take $200 to turn to $400 and beyond, so on and so on and so on. So this is known as the magic of compounded interest, right? So if you've ever run numbers through like a compounded interest calculator, it gets kind of interesting. So what you'll notice is, and you can look at this chart here on the screen, at first, let's say you got $100 and you get, you stick it in the stock market and you get a 10% return on the year, right? Because then you have $110. Not that exciting. Next year, let's just assume you also get 10% for the sake of round numbers, and then you're left with $121. You're like, okay, that's an extra $11. That's not that exciting, and that continues on for years and years and years, where you get returns that really aren't that exciting. But then something happens after 10, 20 years. And by the way, the formula I'm about to cover here is not, we're not talking about a time span of years. We're talking about a time span of months. Okay, so I just want to be clear. But I'm talking just in terms people can understand. We'll just talk about the stock market. What happens after 15, 20 years, all of a sudden, that small percentage of a big number, well, that big number becomes a much bigger number. So the small percentage suddenly isn't that small at all. So then you're getting like, you're making $50,000 a year, then you're making $60,000, then $100,000, then $150,000, and it starts to go crazy, and that's where you see this big upturn in the chart here on the screen, right? So same concept. This would apply to you selling used books on Amazon as much as it would apply to the stock market. The only difference is you get much higher margins. And so this formula I'm about to show you will illustrate that perfectly. Now, I don't know if this is true. I think there's some debate about this, but supposedly Albert Einstein actually called compounded interest the eighth wonder of the world because of how crazy things get when you just keep feeding your quote interest, or your Amazon payouts in this case, back into the machine, how quickly things stack up. So before I get to this formula, I'm going to paint you a couple different scenarios here. If you're starting with $100, you're starting with $250, you're starting with $1,000, you're starting with $500. I'm going to give you all these scenarios and how this will work here, but I got to get a couple important things out of the way. Number one, this applies to all product categories. So like most of my videos and articles, I'm talking about books because it's what I know personally, but they would apply equally well to other categories, in this case, other high margin categories. So basically anything where you can put $1 in and get $2 back, any product category, this will apply, okay? So if you're sourcing online, maybe the numbers won't be as generous, or if you're doing retail arbitrage in terms of like selling new products, maybe the returns might not be as generous, but the same concepts apply, okay? Huge one. In this formula I'm about to give you, the numbers are stupidly, insultingly conservative, okay? When it comes to used books and most used products on Amazon, if you're only doubling your money, you're doing it totally wrong. In other words, this is below a worst case scenario, this form I'm about to give you, okay? Number three, I'm gonna talk about in terms of sales cycles. This will become clear here in a second. I just want to be clear about what I mean by that. I'm talking about the time from when you list a product for sale on Amazon to when it sells. That is a sales cycle. And a sales cycle, just to be clear, is not going to be as long as you think, okay? So we're not talking about a time span of like years here. We're talking about a time span of like weeks to months, worst case scenario. Now, I want you to consider, as I'm going through these formulas here in a second, how, like, what a miracle it is that we can actually have a business where we can double our money. The average, let's just take a retail store, like the shoe store down the street, or the toy store down the street, or for that matter, the bookstore down the street if they're selling new books. Their typical retail margins are 40%. In other words, your bookstore down the street that sells new books, they are, if the book is $30, they are paying whatever 60% of $30 is to get that book. They're only getting 40% margins. And what's even crazier, they have tons of overhead that you and I do not have. They've got to pay employees, they have to pay electricity, they have to pay rent, all these things that we take for granted that we don't have to pay. We don't even think about like how lucky we are to not even have any of this overhead, okay? And so all the overhead comes out of their 40%. So we have none of the overhead and we're able to double our money on the worst day. Do you understand what a gift this is? I want to be really clear about what like how awesome it is that we get to run a business like this, okay? This is really, up until 20 years ago, this is like unprecedented in the history of the world, okay? So let's get into compounding your profits as it relates to Amazon sales, real examples using real math. Of course, the obligatory, before I get into all that, head over to fbamastery.com right now. There's a link below this video. You can download over 700 pages of free material. You can build a whole business off of what I give away for free at the link below this video, fbamastery.com. I got free ebooks, free guides, everything's free. Take it, it's yours. Head over there right now. Also, I have to mention, there's a button below this video and you can subscribe. You can also build a whole business off of what I give away for free on the YouTube channel. If you do not subscribe right now, I will, you have my word, I will come to your house and I will rearrange all your furniture while you're sleeping. You will wake up, you will go to sit down, you will fall on the ground because your love seat will move 6 inches to the right. Do not make me do this to you. Just subscribe to the YouTube channel right now. You can avoid this fate. And lastly, you need a repricing tool if you're selling on Amazon. I built the best one out there. It's called NeuroPrice, the only repricer with no pricing blind spots, the only repricer that can actually raise your prices in any meaningful way. 14-day free trial. Our plans start at $17 a month, which is insane. NeuroPrice.io. Link is also below this video. Okay, let's get into it. Cash compounding scenario number one. Let's say you are essentially sleeping in a cardboard box on the street and you're only able to cobble together $100 to start this business. That's all you've got. I'm hoping this doesn't apply to any of you because it's pretty easy to start with more than $100. Pretty much anyone can get together 100, 200, 300, $500. Let's say you only have $100 to start with, okay? And let's say your average cost per unit, meaning the average amount you're paying per used book or whatever it is that you're selling on Amazon, is $1, okay? This is a pretty realistic average. In other words, a lot of used books you'll be able to get for a quarter, 50 cents. Some of them might be $2, $3. I would say, particularly when you're starting, I would say if you're not sourcing in an environment that is like a bookstore or something, $1 is a pretty fair average, okay? And again, let's assume you're only doubling your money, which again is below a worst case scenario, okay? So that means if you're paying $1 for a book, you're only getting a $2 payout. That's bad for this business, okay? But let's assuming that's the case. Now you've got $200. After one sales cycle, after the 100 books that you invested in, you paid $100 for, you've fed those into the Amazon machine and you now have $200, okay? Now, as to how long this will take, we will get to this in a second. It's not going to be as long as you think, particularly if you only need to double your money. It's pretty stupidly easy to buy a used book for $1 and be able to get $2 back, like in a relatively short amount of time frame. We'll get to that in a second. So we're going to call, again, the time it takes from listing an item for sale to getting that $2 back per book. We're going to call that a sales cycle, okay? So here's how it works. Cycle number one, as we just covered, you've got $200. You turned $100, you guys, into $200. And spoiler, this should not have taken you more than, it really shouldn't take you more than 2 months, probably less than a month if you really are aggressive about it, okay? That's cycle number one. Now you take that $200 and this is where people go astray. You take all $200 and you put it right back in inventory. This is where most people screw things up. They're like, okay, I'm going to take $20 out to go out to dinner or whatever. Like they're pulling money out of their business, okay? So I'm assuming you're disciplined enough to not pull money out of your business until you start to get really crazy numbers. So we hit that takeoff phase. Remember in the chart I showed you where it goes like this, is flat, and all of a sudden it just does that? You don't want to be pulling money out until it does that. Okay, you got it? So that's what I'm assuming here. So you take all $200, you put it back in inventory. Another sales cycle, you now have $400. That's okay. That's interesting, right? But it's not like life-changing money. Take the $400, another sales cycle, now you have $800. Now we're only 3 cycles in. You've turned $100 into $800. Again, not life-changing money, so it hasn't gotten exciting yet. What about the next cycle? Now we're up to $1,600. Again, nothing life-changing, but it's starting to get interesting. What happens then? One more sales cycle, $3,200. After the 6th sales cycle, you guys, we've now hit $6,400. Now, again, nobody's buying a house for $6,400, and no one is putting their kids through college, I don't think. I never went to college, but I'm pretty sure it's more than $6,000. But you only started with $100, and you've only gone through 6 sales cycles, which, again, we're not talking about this. That's not 6 years. It might not even be 6 months. This is a very short amount of time, relatively speaking, when you compare it to other businesses. Okay, you turn $100 into $6,400, and that's basically if you're homeless, right? Like, we should all be able to put together more than $100 to start this business. Okay, so that's pretty insane. But let's make it even more insane here. What happens after 10 sales cycles, which again could be under a year? And we'll get to that. We'll get to those numbers here in a second. What a sales cycle means. $100. What do you think after 6 cycles at $6,400? What do you think it becomes after just 4 more cycles? $100,000. Literally. This isn't theoretical. This is actually how the numbers work. And again, this is if you're doing a bad job. $102,000. The only question here, and we're going to get to what can go wrong here in a second, because I want to be really upfront. Like, I don't want to candy coat this. There are things that can go wrong. I'll be really upfront. There's only 4, actually. Only 4 ways. I always do this. 4. There we go. 4 ways. 4 things can go wrong. So I do not want to candy coat this, and we'll get to those in a second. But if you were disciplined about not pulling money out of the business, and you were doubling your money every sales cycle, you will turn $100 into $100,000 in 10 cycles, which you could do in less than a year. In fact, you could even do that in less than 10 months. We'll get to that in a second, okay? So here's what the chart looks like. Remember, I keep talking about the takeoff phase. It's like flat, flat, flat. It goes up a little bit, and then boom, right? Shoots up. That's what we're talking about. And this is a real chart, by the way, of like what that looks like, okay? Okay, now let's say you're starting with $250. Cycle number 1, $500. Cycle number 2, $1,000. Cycle number 3, $2,000. Cycle number 4, $4,000. Then $8,000. And after 6 cycles, you guys, you've turned $250 into $16,000. Pretty cool, right? But again, $16,000, that might actually be life-changing for a lot of us. But what do you think happens after 10 cycles? What do you think? Remember, we turned $100 into $100,000 in 10 cycles. What do you think starting with $250 becomes? $256,000. Now, this is where I want to be really blunt with you. You are going to start to run into a bottleneck at this point, probably, when it comes to source. So I want to be really clear. You will, at a certain point, start to run into issues of scale, and you have to figure out how to scale the business. That is, again, that's a solved problem. Lots of people do it. Lots and lots of people making more than $250,000 a year selling used books on Amazon, like tons. Okay, so this is not, this is not like a Herculean. Is that the word? Herculean feat here. But you will at a certain point have to figure out, okay, how do I scale this thing? Assuming you can figure that out, and that you really only have to figure that out once you start, you start to actually, like, the numbers start to rack up, and you start to be able to hit that wall of like, oh, I don't have enough like sources to actually feed inventory into the machine. You can solve that problem at that point, okay? So here's what that chart looks like. Again, you see that takeoff phase. Gets pretty interesting. Okay, now this is where things get insane. I almost didn't want to put this slide in because you will have to be, by the time we get to the 6th cycle here, you have to actually you will actually have to have like scaled your Amazon business. Okay, you will actually have to have some sources dialed in to actually be able to feed enough books or whatever you choose to sell into the machine. But let's just see how this works. Sales cycle number 1, turn $1,000 into $2,000. Then it becomes 4, then it becomes 8, then it becomes 16, then it becomes 32. And after 6 cycles, $1,000 becomes $64,000. Now, that is a healthy business. Now this is fun, right? And then 6 sales cycles should happen in an amount of time that's way less than a year. So, and I would say, you really don't need to have a scaled business to hit $64,000. You could just do that, just going out single sourcing. That's not going to be much of a problem for you. Now, if we get to 10 cycles here, which I'll show you in the next slide, you're going to have to be really starting to scale your business. But again, start with $1,000. You can hit $64,000 pretty quickly in profit. If you're disciplined enough to feed everything back into the business, this is what it looks like. Now, what do you think it looks like if you start with $1,000 after 10 cycles? This is where it starts to get absurd. It literally is $1 million. You start with $1,000. You will turn it, assuming you have enough inventory options and your sources are dialed in, your sourcing methodology is dialed in enough to actually, again, get this much inventory, it becomes $1 million after 10 cycles. And that can happen in less than a year. So your only problem at this point is sourcing. So pretty interesting, right? And again, I don't want to say this is within reach of, the majority of people. Like, the majority of people are not going to be willing to put the work into what it takes to scale a business to this size. I've never had $1 million year. Straight up. Never had $1 million year with selling books on Amazon, okay? I do know what that looks like, and I made the decision myself to say I'm not willing to go down that road. I know what this looks like, and I know people that do it, and I know how they do it. So it's not a mystery to me. It's just a question of, like, for me personally, like, this is a lifestyle business for me. This is not a, like, I want a warehouse and, like, forklifts business, right? So if you decide you want to go that route, again, you've got obligations or aspirations that exceed mine, okay, then this is absolutely within reach, okay? Now, what did I promise you at the beginning? How you can take $500 and turn it to $150,000. I think that's a number that's exciting for most of us, particularly if we're, obviously if we're not making $150,000, but most of us when we're getting started or we're still running kind of a smaller operation, $150,000 is a number where I think it starts to get like, oh, this is like a real business, right? It's exciting. So what does that look like? Start with $500. After 6 cycles, $158,000. That's the math. And again, you can't argue with the math. If you take $500 and you feed it into the machine and you get $1,000 back after 6 cycles, it becomes $158,000. Okay. And this is not where $150,000 is not a level where I would say you need to be like scaling, right? Like this could be like a one person, you could even do this part-time, like part-ish time. Like maybe you're putting in 30 hours a week or less. I know people have done it with less because they just got some real lucrative sources. But the point is totally doable. Totally doable. I think the big question right now that everyone's wondering is like, one, what's the catch? Like, what are the things that can go wrong? We'll get to that. And then 2, what is a sales cycle? How long are we talking about here? 6 months means 6 years. Does it mean 6 weeks? It's neither of those. We'll get to that right now. Okay, so how long is a cycle? Years ago, I was like, I need a formula down so that I know in advance how quickly my inventory should sell. And I started to look at patterns. Okay, so I go out and source, 500 books. Like, what does that look like after 30 days? What does that look like after 6 months? And I got a formula down. I call it the 30-60 rule. So I have a separate video about this if you want to go deeper, and I have a separate article on fbamaster.com as well. But the 30-60 rule, the short version is as follows. You will at least double your investment in 30 days. In other words, like on a per shipment basis, we'll say, so if you're selling FBA on a per shipment basis. By the way, if you're selling merch fulfilled, these numbers work out a lot better. Now you're going to have a bottleneck of a shipping bottleneck as well, like a logistics bottleneck, because you actually have to fulfill those orders. That's an additional bottleneck that FBA sellers don't have. But of course, your fees are dramatically less. So these numbers actually work out better for you, assuming you can actually process that much inventory. But this is mostly for FBA sellers right now. You will at least double your investment in 30 days. So let's say you invest $1,000 in a shipment. Okay, you should get in 30 days. You should get $2,000 back, and you should sell at least half of that shipment in 60 days. In other words, you're gonna get a rush of sales in 30 days, right? And then things kind of quickly taper off. And then what you would call your long tail inventory is just going to sit there and just bide its time, and then we'll all sell eventually, right? But you'll sell at least half your shipment in 60 days. So that's and it's weird, it's eerie how consistent this is. Now, it's not going to be exact, but like, across like many shipments, it should work out pretty close to this. And it's just a cool little rule that you can that will allow you to like predict your profits and how much inventory you'll have left on a per shipment basis, okay? So does that mean that a sales cycle is 30 days? Well, yes and no, but mostly yes. I mean, if you're staying on top of your repricing, and your average sales rank of the books you're shipping in or whatever you're selling is really strong, like in the top 1%, it should work out this way. The reason I don't want to the reason I call them sales cycles and not months, is that I think it just doesn't always work out this way. So I don't want anyone to be able to say they felt like deceived by this video or something, right? But it really should work out this way. Again, if you're staying on top of your repricing, that's really the only variable that matters once you've shipped your inventory in, is just staying on top of your repricing. Again, if you're one of those sellers that your inventory is heavily biased towards, what we call long tail books, like books that are like lower demand, it's not going to work out this way. So this isn't going to apply to everybody. If you got a good mix of high demand titles and low demand titles, it should work out this way. And actually, it should work out better than this, because I don't ship in anything I'm not going to make at least $3 on. And I don't actually personally even know my average cost per unit, but I bet it's around $1. That feels pretty close to average. So, it could work. If you only need $2 back, that means you're able to, the inventory that you can sell profitably increases dramatically, like more than for me. Like, I just don't want to sell a book for less than $3. If you're comfortable getting a $2 payout, you have a lot more opportunities, and it'll actually open up a lot of opportunities in higher demand products, higher demand books. So, it could work out even better, especially if you're willing to like do kind of like really kind of schizo stuff, like underprice your competition, stuff I don't usually recommend, just to get inventory out the door, to like increase to narrow the sales cycle. Yeah, this is absolutely like a 30-day sales cycle is absolutely realistic. What does it mean to actually get sales? Like, what is the detail that matter? I want to cover every aspect of it. I don't want anyone to come away from this video thinking, oh, but he didn't cover that, or like he painted, like he candy coated things too much because he left out this one detail. Like, I'm going to cover everything here. Okay. So the only thing that matters when you ship in inventory or you list inventory for sale, in terms of how quickly you get a sale, is pricing. That's it. People are always like, I'm not getting sales. I don't know why. How could you not know why? It's literally pricing. There is no other variable that matters. Once you've listed something for sale, pricing is the only detail. That is it. There is no mystery here. So if you want quicker sales, you just drop your prices. Now, I don't recommend that, because I don't recommend like, chasing quick sales. Like, I don't think it's a good business, not the business I want to be in. But if you are not getting, the sales cycles are longer than you want, then you just drop your prices. That's literally it. That's the only thing that matters. So people think it's like complicated. There's some mystical forces at work. It's like we get these emails all day at NeuroPrice. So I run a repricing tool called NeuroPrice, and we get these emails all day. It's like, I'm not getting the sales I want. Like, what do I do? It's like, it's always the same answer. You just drop your prices. That's literally it. There is nothing else. I really couldn't say it in more blunt terms than that. So if at any point you're like, wow, my sales cycles are like way longer than I want, you just, again, I don't recommend it, but you just drop your prices. That's literally it. Or I guess, it's kind of the other side of that coin, is like repricing frequently. So you might not necessarily, it might not just be that you're not dropping your prices far enough, but it might just be that you're just not repricing your inventory at all. So again, kind of two sides of the same coin, but it all comes down to pricing. So you got to be repricing daily, and that's the first box to check. And then if you're not getting the sales you want at that point, you need to start dropping your prices. Okay, so what could go wrong? There's 4 things, only 4 things. And feel free to drop a comment if you think I left anything out. But I think there's only 4 ways that you cannot turn $500 into $150,000 in 6 sales cycles, which again should be under a year. Okay, only 4 things. So here they are. And I want you to write these down, because if you are hopped up on this formula and you're like, I'm going to go do this, you need to be aware of how things could potentially go sideways. Okay. So first one I already talked about, a sourcing bottleneck. At some point, you're likely to hit a point where you're unable to source enough inventory. In other words, you got the $60,000, but you can't find 60,000 books, right? That's going to be a bottleneck you're going to have to solve. Now, there's plenty of resources out there. You go to fbamaster.com. Most of it's for free. I've got a free, book sourcing report at fbamaster.com. I have a whole course on that. This is a solved problem, right? If you choose to solve it, or you want to just wait until you actually hit that bottleneck, the information is available to you. Okay, so there shouldn't be any major challenges here, but you will hit that bottleneck at some point. Okay, number 2, are you not hitting 100% ROI? That's going to be very difficult to screw up. In other words, you have to really be making some bad buying decisions to not be able to double your money with books or any used products on Amazon. So the way you solve this is you understand, basically read the data wherever you're getting it better. In other words, you're making poor buying decisions. I have a whole article on, or actually video and article on how to read data on your sourcing app, whether it's like Scoutly or whatever you're using, I have a really simple video. It's strangely one of my most popular videos. So you can go watch that. But that you're just making bad decisions. Okay. Number 3, not repricing. You got to be repricing, preferably every single day. Now, most repricers have a scheduling feature. You don't have to be using my tool, NeuroPrice. You can use another one. But whatever you're using, you should be doing it daily. Okay. Number 4 is not putting. This is the big one. This is one where most people screw up. Not putting 100% of your payouts back into inventory. Almost no one is disciplined enough to do this. Almost nobody is disciplined enough to not pull any money out of the business and basically not get paid for 6 sales cycles to turn $500 into $150,000. Almost no one can do that. They're putting money in their pocket. Do you understand what happens if you invest $500 in books and you get $1,000 back? Do you understand the long-term implications and impact of just pulling out even just $100 out of that? Oh, I'm going to take $100. Just $100. It's only $100. What that $100 could turn into across 6 sales cycles, I should have made that chart for you to show you, but it's like 100 times. I mean, we could even go back. If you pull $100 out, let's do this right now. If you pull $100 out, I think this is a 1-to-1 equation. It translates to $6,400 that you've lost because I'm just going back to the original equation here. So if you pull $100 out after investing $500 and getting $1,000 back, I think you have lost $6,400. It might even be more. But the point is, taking small amounts out become very, very expensive. So do not make that mistake. Again, these formulas assume you are disciplined enough to put all your payouts back into inventory. If you're not willing to do that, just X out of this video right now. If you're not cut out for that, just forget this. It's not going to work. Okay. You have to be disciplined enough. Now, at any point, you can take your foot off the gas and start pulling money out of your business. 100%, right? But I recommend you don't do that until you hit the takeoff phase where the money's just crazy. That's how this business works. Okay, guys, so hopefully this was exciting for you. You got a 4-part mission. Are you ready? Mission number 1, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the button below this video right now, or I will come to your house and rearrange every piece of furniture in your house. Don't make me do it. Just subscribe right now. Number 2, head over to fbamaster.com. Get all the free stuff you see here. Over 700 pages of free material, free ebooks, free sourcing guide, like literally free guides on sourcing inventory. I've got free guides on repricing your inventory. I got everything, all the things that can go wrong here. I have it covered entirely for free at fbamaster.com. Go hit the link below this video, download all this stuff here. Mission number 3. What did I say? What was the third one on the list of things that go wrong? Not repricing your inventory. Okay. I have solved this problem for you for a very inexpensive amount. Our plans start at $17 a month. The world's best repricer, just launched our scheduling feature. First repricer with no pricing blind spots. Plans again to start as low as $17 a month and 14-day free trial. So if you don't have a repricer and you're like, oh wow, I need to solve this problem, head over to neuroprice.io right now. Link is below this video. Sign up for the free trial. Solve this problem. Mission number 4, take what you learned in this video and don't just be inspired by it. Actually go make money with it. Put it into practice. Have the discipline to not pull money out. Take all your money, put it back in inventory, and let the cash compound. That's it, you guys. This is Peter Valley signing off, and I'll see you in the next video.